Hi, today we are going to cover chapter 10 finally. As you can see, my hair is a complete mess. I'm not exactly disciplined or motivated right now. That's not how my days are going, and that's why it's been, you know, I've been delaying so much and I haven't made chapter 10 so far. So I thought that, I should get a shave, I should look better and all that. But then I thought that who cares about how I look? It's about what content I share and how I can help you guys out, right? With your examination or with your knowledge or whatever. And the perfect moment is never going to come. I'll probably wake up late every day and I'm probably gonna look like a mess. So let me not think about looking perfect or the perfect moment. Let me just make this video the first thing in the morning, right after I wake up. That's it. So here I am. I'm gonna cover chapter 10 today along with my notes, and I am teaching from PT Manual 5th edition. Now of course I don't have the book with me right now. It's due to this lockdown. I don't have access to the book. It's in another rented house of mine. So all I'm going to teach you is from my notes. But don't worry, my notes are pretty good. I had even given my notes to a friend of mine and he also cleared the exam using my same notes. This very notes that I'm going to share with you today in this video. So my notes are good. Make sure you take screenshot. So I'll show you the notes properly. Take a screenshot and you can make your own notes using this as a reference. Now as you know, chapter 10, which is all about resistance training, hypertrophy and stuff like that, it's very interesting. It's something that we personal trainers, especially men, love a lot. It's our favorite topic, right? Size. Men are always obsessed with size. So yeah, resistance training, hypertrophy, that's what we're going to cover in chapter 10. Now chapter 10 is very long. I know there's a lot to study. So just similarly, my notes are also long. For chapter 10, the notes are very long. So let me see how much I can explain. If I'm not able to explain the entire chapter today, what I'll do is I'll make this video into two parts, just as I had done for chapter 5. So this is going to be in two parts. So first part, I'll cover as many topics as I can using my notes, and then immediately I'll make the second part and upload it as soon as possible. Okay. All right, chalo, enough. Let's get started. Let's start with the notes. Hold on, wait a minute. Before we start, I need to explain just 2-3 topics before I show you my notes, because only then it will be easy for you when you read through the notes. Okay, let's cover some basic topics like concentric phase, eccentric phase, isometric phase. So what is concentric phase? Concentric phase is when you are doing a bicep curl, right? So you are contracting your biceps. So your muscle is contracting in length. So this is the concentric phase. So when you're doing a bicep curl, this curl is your concentric phase. What is your eccentric phase? Eccentric phase is the phase where your muscle lengthens. So if this is concentric, this is going to be eccentric. So right, so when you're lowering that dumbbell, right, you're doing a curl, and then when you're lowering that dumbbell, that what's happening over here, your muscle is lengthening. So that phase is called eccentric phase. Then we have the isometric phase. So what is isometric phase? Let's say I'm just doing this, I'm just holding like this. I'm neither contracting nor am I lengthening. I'm just holding it like this. So this is called isometric phase. So plank is an example of an isometric exercise, because you're neither contracting nor lengthening. You're just you're holding that position. That is isometric exercise, and that is the isometric phase. So will you remember? Concentric phase, eccentric phase, isometric phase. Getting it? Okay. So next what I'm going to cover is one more thing that I'll tell you is about muscle length. There is a topic in this chapter where they say that if your muscle length is long, if the length of your muscle, if it is long, then you have more potential for size, for hypertrophy. You have more potential. So what that means is, I'll give you a very simple example. If you look at my biceps, I have small biceps. My bicep is very small. And how do I know that? If you look at the length of my bicep length is very small. How do you know that? See, if I do like this, if I slightly contract, you will see I am able to fit 3 fingers over here. You see this cut over here? Over here, in between this cut and this elbow, I am able to place 3 fingers. See, what does this mean? That means that the length of my overall biceps is very small. So my potential to get big biceps is very less. So no matter how much I work out, the potential that I have to have big biceps is very less. I'm genetically not gifted to have big biceps, because if you see, the length of my muscle is very small. I'm able to insert 3 fingers here. But some people, you will see, when they contract their biceps even a little bit, just slightly, when they contract, you will see that this cut is over here, this length is still here, and they are probably able to just put 2 fingers or 1 finger. These are the people who have the capacity to grow really big biceps. They can grow big because their muscle length is very big. So if your length of your muscle is big, you have more potential for hypertrophy, and if the length is small, you don't have much potential for size. So that is one topic that will come in this chapter. So when you read my notes also, it will become more clear to you. Okay, so the third topic that I want to cover before I show you my notes is compound sets, supersets, drop sets. What is the difference? So what is compound interest? You know, compound interest, like multiple interest is coming. What is compound exercise? Like exercise that involves multi joints. So every time multiple things are coming, you call it compound, right? So a compound set is a set where you are doing 2 exercises back to back with very little to no rest in between. 2 exercises you are doing back to back. That is a compound set. But here's the interesting part. Superset. Even a superset means the same thing. Even superset means you are doing 2 exercises back to back. So what is the difference? So listen to me very carefully, guys. You should understand the difference between compound set and superset. This is conceptual thing. So what is a compound set? A compound set, listen to me very carefully. A compound set is a set where you are doing 2 exercises back to back, but for the same muscle group. I'll repeat. A compound set is a set where you are doing 2 exercises back to back, but for the same muscle group. I'll give you an example to make this more clear. Let's say I'm doing a shoulder press. Which muscle am I working? I'm working on my shoulders, right? I'm doing a shoulder press. I'm working on my shoulders. Now, immediately after doing shoulder press, I start doing lateral raises like this. I do lateral raises. So which muscle am I working on? Again, shoulders. So this is an example of a compound set where you're doing a shoulder press, which is for shoulders. Then immediately you start doing lateral raises, which is for your shoulders. That is a compound set. So in this case, what would be a superset? What would be an example of superset? Your superset is also 2 exercises done back to back, right? But you are doing it for the opposite muscle groups. I'll say that again. A superset is a set where you are doing 2 exercises back to back, but for opposite muscle groups. So I'll give you an example for this also. Let's say I'm doing bicep curls. So this exercise is for my biceps. Immediately after doing biceps curls, I'll be doing some tricep extensions. So what is triceps? It's opposite muscle, right? So again, I'm doing 2 exercises back to back, but for opposite muscle, opposing muscle groups. If bicep helps me flex my elbows, triceps is doing the opposite of it. It is extending my elbows, right? So these are opposing muscles. So immediately after doing a bicep curl, if I do a tricep extension, that means this is a superset. 2 exercises back to back, but for opposing muscle groups. Another example would be a bench press. Immediately after bench press, you are doing a inverted rows, barbell inverted rows, which is for your back. So this is your pushing muscles and back is your pulling muscles. So they are what? Opposing muscles. So 2 exercises back to back. One is bench press, second is inverted rows or single arm rows. So 2 exercises I am doing back to back for opposing muscle groups. When I do that, it is superset. So what is compound set? 2 exercises back to back, but for the same muscle group. What is superset? 2 exercises back to back, but for opposing muscle groups. Clear? Finally, we have drop set. Drop set is also called as breakdown training. So what is a drop set? You will always see, right? When you start with a 10 kg dumbbell. You do let's say 10 repetitions of 10 kg dumbbells. You're getting tired. You'll put that dumbbell down. Now you'll pick up a 7.5 kg dumbbell and you'll continue doing that, right? Again, you become tired. You drop that. Now you pick up a 5 kg dumbbell and you continue doing that. Again, you become tired. You're not able to do more. You drop that and you pick up a 2.5 kg dumbbell and keep doing that. So till you are not able to do a single repetition, you are dropping the weights. So this kind of training is called as breakdown training, and this kind of set is called drop set. Finally, we have assisted training. So what is assisted training? That's where you come in. As a personal trainer, you come to the picture. So assisted training is a training where someone, let's say they are doing bicep curls. So after a while they got tired, they are not able to do that bicep curl. Now you as a personal trainer will give them support. You will try to lift that barbell for them so that they complete that rep. This is called assisted training. Now remember, in assisted training there's something very interesting, that is you will be assisting that person only for the concentric phase, not the eccentric phase, because research has shown that people are 40% stronger in the eccentric phase. They can handle the eccentric. It's the concentric that they struggle with. So as a personal trainer, you only help them with the concentric part. You give them assistance for the concentric phase of the exercise. So that is assisted training, where you are helping out a client, you are giving them support and you are helping them complete that repetition, but only on the concentric phase, not the eccentric phase. That's it. Now let's go back to my notes. Now when you look at the notes, everything will become very much more clearer for you. Alright, let's go. Okay guys, so here is my notes. Take a look at it. I hope it's clear. So these are the things that I just explained: concentric, eccentric, isometric. So that you can take a screenshot. Let me take it like this. Yeah. So you can pause the video right now and you can take a screenshot. So these are my notes. So I have already explained concentric, eccentric, isometric just now. This is what I've written here. Compound sets also I explained, 2 exercises but for same muscle group. I've also given an example: shoulder press plus lateral raise. Superset is 2 exercises but for opposing muscle groups. Bench press and one arm dumbbell row, they are opposite muscle groups. Drop set is also called as breakdown training. You're training a muscle to fatigue and then you drop the weight by 10% or 20%. So remember this 10% or 20%, you never know, they might ask you this question. So train a muscle to fatigue and then drop the weight by 10% or 20% and perform additional reps. That is what breakdown training looks like. So example also I've given. I start off with a 15 kg dumbbell. When I get tired, I go for 12 kg, then 10 kg, then 7.5 kg, then 5 kg and so on. What is assisted training? You're training a muscle to fatigue and then you are receiving manual assistance from a trainer, but only on the lifting phase, that is concentric phase. So this is the important part guys, but only on the lifting phase, that is concentric phase. And this is general info. People are 40% stronger on eccentric phase. You never know, you might get this question also. People are 40% stronger on their eccentric phase. Remember this. Moving on, let's look at training variables. So what are the training variables that affect strength development? So remember this as VTFIR. V stands for volume, T stands for tempo, F stands for frequency, I for intensity, R for rest intervals. Rest intervals is between sets or between sets, how much rest are you taking? Are you taking 30 seconds rest? Are you taking 60 seconds rest? Are you taking 90 seconds rest? So that is going to affect your strength development. So when you are designing a program, all these variables will be very important. So these are the variables that affect your strength development. Now remember this, if you know Athlean-X, he's there on YouTube, he's very famous. I am a huge fan of Athlean-X and he has some really good content out there. So this is something he always used to say: you can either train hard or you can train long, but you cannot do both. I repeat, you can either train hard or you can train long, but you cannot do both. So this I used as an example to remember this. So here what do you see? Intensity, I stands for intensity. Intensity is inversely proportional to volume, which means if the intensity is going to be very high, then volume has to be low. You cannot do a high intensity exercise for a long time with a high volume with several sets. You can't do that. So this is a rule. Intensity is inversely proportional to volume. Similarly, frequency is also inversely proportional to volume. So let's say you're training 7 days a week or 6 days a week, then your volume has to be low. You cannot do like 5 sets, 6 sets of bench press and do it like 6 days, 7 days a week. That will lead to injury. So if frequency is going to be very high, volume has to be low. Similarly, if intensity is going to be very high, volume has to be low. One more variable we have here is frequency is inversely proportional to intensity. This is also your common sense, guys. Think about it. If you're gonna do high intensity exercises 7 days a week, that is going to lead to overtraining and you will get hurt, you will get injured. So if frequency is going to be high, intensity has to be low. So let's say I am doing just 10 push-ups and that is low intensity for me. In that case, I can do it 7 days a week. Now I'm not advising you to do push-ups 7 days a week continuously. I'm just giving you an example to make this concept more clear. So if frequency is going to be high, intensity has to be low. If frequency is going to be high, volume has to be low. If intensity is going to be high, volume has to be low. That's it. So these are the variables that affect strength development. Volume, tempo means speed, like how you are lifting a dumbbell, or how you are doing a push-up. If you are doing very slow push-ups, then you are using slow tempo. If you are doing very fast push-ups very quickly, then you are using a fast tempo. So this tempo is also going to affect your strength development, whether you are going to develop strength or not. So these are the variables that affect your strength development: volume, tempo, frequency, intensity, and rest intervals. Now let's look at the variables affecting program design. Now this is where you come into the picture, you as a personal trainer. So when you're designing a program for a client, these are the variables that you're gonna put into consideration. You're going to take all these factors into consideration while designing a program for a client. So what are those variables? It's called first. So remember it as first. So this was VTFIR. This is first. F stands for frequency, I stands for intensity. Here R stands for reps and not rest intervals. R stands for reps, S stands for sets, and T stands for type of exercise. So I'll quickly explain what this all means. So when you're designing a program for a client, you'll look at the frequency first. Like how many days a week are you going to train that client? Are you going to give them an exercise designed for 7 days a week, for 6 days a week, or just 3 days a week? Then you're going to decide on the intensity. How intense is that exercise going to be? It is going to be high intensity, medium intensity, or low intensity. Reps and sets, so you already know, right? How many reps? Generally for hypertrophy, we recommend 12 reps, right? 12 reps and 3 sets. That's what generally we do, or 12 reps into 4 sets. For strength, we use a different protocol, like 5 into 5, 5 reps into 5 sets, some stuff like that. Then we have the type of exercise. So what kind of exercise are you going to make them do? Is it going to be a push pull legs, or is it going to be a full body exercise, right? So that is a type of exercise. So these are the factors. See how I'm designing a program right now using these factors. So if I'm choosing a full body exercise, that means the intensity is also going to be high, because of course you're using your entire body, right? Which means you'll be doing compound exercises like squats, deadlifts, bench press, inverted rows, stuff like that. So type of exercise is full body exercise, so intensity is high. So now I'll decide the frequency. If it is full body exercise, I'll probably give them 3 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? So that's the type of exercise, is full body exercise, intensity is high, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And reps and sets will be standard. Maybe if I'm aiming for hypertrophy, then maybe I'll ask them to do 12 reps or 8 reps, stuff like that. That's how you design a program using first: frequency, intensity, reps, sets, type of exercise. Okay, moving on. This is again general info. What are the benefits of resistance training? If someone asks you what are the benefits of resistance training, you can tell them all these things. So now remember, resistance training doesn't necessarily mean weightlifting or going to the gym and lifting weights. Resistance training can also be training using resistance bands. You see those fancy resistance bands, multicolored, that is also resistance training. Resistance training can also be body weight exercises like push-ups, pull-ups. So in that case, you are using your body weight as resistance. Instead of using an external weight, you are using your own body weight as resistance. So that is like push-ups, pull-ups, body weight dips, body weight squats. So these are all things that come under resistance training. Remember that it's not just weightlifting. Okay, so what are the now that we understood what is resistance training, let's see what are the benefits of resistance training. The primary outcome is increase in muscle fiber size, right? We tend to get some size, our muscle size increases when we do resistance training. That is common, that we all know. So your size will also increase, and your contractile strength, that means your ability to squeeze a muscle, right? So your strength, basically your strength is also going to increase if you do resistance training. What else? Secondary outcomes. So remember, these are the primary outcomes. Size and strength are the primary outcomes of resistance training. What are the secondary outcomes? These are also equally important. Increase in BMD. What is BMD? Bone mineral density. And the tensile strength of tendons and ligaments. In your body, we don't just have muscles, we also have tendons, we also have ligaments. So all of these things will get conditioned if you do a lot of resistance training. Your tendons will become strong, your ligaments will become strong, your mineral density, your bone's density is there, right? Thickness of your bone, the density of your bone, that will also increase if you do resistance training. Now let's clear off this confusion. What is the difference between tendon and ligament? So this is how I try to remember it. Tendon, BTM. So I live in Bangalore, so there is a place called BTM layout. So that's how I try to remember. Tendon matlab BTM layout. That's how I try to remember it. So BTM means nothing, bone, tendon, muscle. So tendon is something that attaches a bone to a muscle. Let's say you have a bone called elbow. Elbow joint is your bone, right? Elbow joint. So this elbow is your bone. Then you have the biceps here, right? So bicep is what? It's a muscle, and elbow is your bone. So there is a tendon over here. It's a tissue that attaches your muscle, that is your bicep, to your elbow joint. So that tendon, so that is called tendon. Tendon is something that attaches your muscle to your bone. So bone, tendon, muscle equal to BTM. Remember again, bone, tendon, muscle, BTM layout or whatever. Ligament, I try to remember it as bulb, except that there is no U over here. So bulb, think about bulb. So now try to expand this. Bone, ligament, bone. Bone, ligament, bone. So ligament is something that attaches a bone to a bone. Tendon is something that attaches a bone to a muscle. Clear? Will you remember this? Just remember BTM and BLB. That's it. You will remember everything else. Bone, tendon, muscle, bone, ligament, bone. Ligament attaches bone to bone, tendon attaches bone to muscle. That's it. Now this is general info again, something that I just noted down, not that important. Previously untrained individuals will increase their muscle mass by 1.4 kilograms and reduce their fat weight by 1.8 kilos. And increase their RMR, which is the resting metabolic rate, that is your metabolism, by 7% after just 10 weeks of resistance training. So this is a general info, but this is not general info. This is something that you need to remember. You may get a question from here. That's the reason I put it as note, and this I probably took from those key concepts. Key concepts are important, remember that, right? You remember. So this says that every decade, that means every 10 years, non-resistance training individual, meaning people who don't do resistance training, people who don't lift weights, people who don't do any kind of resistance training, those people, every 10 years, that is every decade, they will lose 5 pounds, that is 5 lbs, 5 pounds of muscle. So I repeat, every decade or every 10 years, non-resistance training individuals, meaning individuals who don't do resistance training, who don't lift weights, will lose 5 pounds of muscle. They will lose 5 pounds of muscle every 10 years, people who don't do resistance training. Now, which in turn will reduce their RMR, meaning the resting metabolic rate. Resting metabolic rate is the amount of calories that you burn when you're resting. Even when you're not doing anything, you're just sleeping, that time also you burn calories, guys, and that is called as your resting metabolic rate. Also, they are interchangeably used as BMR, basic metabolic rate. They are kind of similar, but there is a difference. If you want, you can comment below. I'll make a separate video on that if you want. So yeah, they will lose 10 kgs, sorry, they'll lose 5 pounds of muscle every 10 years if they don't do resistance training, which in turn will reduce their resting metabolic rate, that is their metabolism, and it will also increase their body fat percentage. So all these three things are connected, guys: muscle, metabolism, fat. All these three things are connected. Do you see here? If you lose muscle, your metabolism will drop. If your metabolism will drop, your fat percentage will increase. Now this is a point that you can highlight to a lot of women out there who tell that I don't want to gain muscle, I don't want to lift weights. So you should explain that if you don't do resistance training, then every 10 years you are going to lose 5 pounds of muscle. And muscle is very important in your body. Why? Because if you have muscle, you will have more metabolism, which means automatically you'll be burning more calories, which means automatically your fat percentage is going to be low. But if you don't have muscle, your metabolism will drop and your fat percentage will increase. So remember this point. Hence, see, that's what they are also telling here. Hence, both men and women must make resistance training a regular component of an active lifestyle, which means both men and women should do resistance training. Again, like I said, resistance training doesn't necessarily mean weightlifting or going to the gym and lifting weights. It can also be doing exercises with resistance band. It can also be doing exercises with your own body weight, like body weight squats, push-ups, pull-ups, stuff like that. So both men and women should practice resistance training. That is what they are mentioning over here. Moving on. So here again, something I have taken from key concepts, I guess. So these are all general info that I'm sharing over here. So if you want to take a screenshot, here you go. You can take a screenshot now and save it. So yeah. So what are the other benefits? Other benefits include decrease in triglyceride levels, which means your LDL, you know what LDL is? Low density lipoprotein or low density lipid profile. This is your cholesterol, your bad cholesterol basically. So your bad cholesterol will come down. Your LDL levels will come down if you do resistance training. There will be a decrease in SBP and DBP. SBP is systolic blood pressure, DBP is diastolic blood pressure. Your blood pressure will also decrease if you do resistance training. Prevention of osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a disease, is a kind of medical condition where you are losing your bone density and your bones are becoming brittle, and you are more vulnerable to fractures and lot of bone injury. So this is something that is, women are more vulnerable to this, especially after menopause. After they have stopped, their periods have stopped, they are more prone to osteoporosis because their bone density keeps going down. So this can be prevented or decreased by using resistance training. So with more resistance training, you will have an increased bone mineral density, which means you will be less prone to medical conditions like osteoporosis, which is thinning of bones. Your body composition will improve if you do resistance training. Body composition, what does body composition means? It means increased lean mass meaning your muscle, and decreased fat mass meaning decreased fat percentage. Your RMR, that is your resting metabolic rate, will go high. That means your metabolism will increase if you do resistance training. Reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes because your insulin response is going to improve. Your glucose utilization, the amount of glucose your body utilizes, that will improve, which in turn will reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes and CVD. CVD means cardiovascular disease, heart problems. All these things you will not get if you do resistance training. Reduce risk of developing metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is again a medical condition. It is generally, you must have heard about thyroid problems, right? Hypothyroid, hyperthyroid, stuff like that. Even asthma, I guess. So these all, your chances of developing hypothyroid, hyperthyroid, all these problems will be very less. I think type 1 diabetes is also a metabolic syndrome. So all these risks will considerably reduce if you do resistance training. Decreases depression in older men and women. A lot of men as they get old, or a lot of women as they get old, they are more prone to depression. But in this generation, everybody is prone to depression. So this will also be reduced greatly. A lot of studies and research has shown that exercise can reduce depression. And I can relate to this. Every time I stop exercising, I become really low. Anyways, Note. So this is again a general info. This just for your knowledge, excessive body fat can infiltrate and weaken muscle tissue. Hence, obese people may look big and strong, but they are actually weak. So when you look at a guy who is very fat, or a girl who is very fat, you will probably think, oh my god, they must be very strong, right? Because they are huge. But that's not true. Because the more fat percentage you have in your body, that fat can infiltrate, meaning it can pass into, it can get inside and weaken muscle tissue. So it will make your muscles weak if you have a lot of fat in your body. So people who are fat or huge in size because of obesity, they are not strong, guys. They are actually weak. So although for obese people, now this is important, although for obese people resistance training does not seem to be very effective for weight loss. So if you're handling an obese client, you will generally give them light intensity cardio, right? Because they have so much fat to reduce, so they will not benefit much from resistance training. Now although that is true, since we know that more fat percentage can infiltrate and weaken muscle tissue, we need to take care of this muscle tissue also. That's the reason we should not overlook the importance of resistance training. We should do resistance training for these people also. Now, during the first several, now this is very important, guys. Yes, this is important. So here's what I want you to do. Yeah, so this is very important, guys. During the first several weeks of training, strength gains are largely due to neurological adaptations known as motor learning. So your central nervous system gets conditioned, gets adapted to the new force, the new shock that you're giving, and it will become strong. It will understand how much force to generate, how much muscle fibers to activate to perform the action that you're doing, be it squats, be it deadlifts, be it whatever exercise that you're doing. So the first several weeks of training, the strength gains are mainly due to neurological adaptations known as motor learning. So there was a question like this in the exam, guys. So remember this is an important point. The question was something like this. During the first several weeks of training, strength gains are largely due to, that was the question, and the options were neurological adaptations, that was option A. Option B was hypertrophy. Option C was weight loss. Option D was something movement or something, I don't remember. So the answer was neurological adaptations. So remember, the first several weeks of training, when you do, the strength gains that you make are largely due to neurological adaptations known as motor learning. So in the options, they might either give you neurological adaptations or they'll give you motor learning. So you need to choose that. That will be your answer. What is the second adaptation? Some of the strength gains are also due to muscle hypertrophy. So yes, when your muscle size increases, that can also lead to increased strength gains. So that is secondary. Which brings us to the next topic, that is hypertrophy. Hypertrophy, there are two types. One is myofibrillar hypertrophy, then we have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Then there's also something called transient hypertrophy. So I'll explain all these things, but since this video has already crossed 30 minutes, it has become too long. Like I said, I'll have to make a part 2 of this video where I'll be explaining all these topics. So let's see how much more topics are left to cover. I think there are a lot more topics left because this is a huge chapter. You have factors influencing muscle strength and hypertrophy, where I'll be explaining about tendon insertion point, limb length, muscle length, all of this. Muscle length I already explained in the start of the video. Then we have the parameters, hypertrophy, training tempo. We have training principles. Double progressive strength training model is important. Then we have periodization, that is also important, especially undulating periodization, linear periodization. Then we have circuit training, that is also important. My god, this is a huge chapter, guys. What to do? A lot of topics. But don't worry, the notes are finishing over here. This is where the notes finish. So this part I will be making as a separate video. That will be a part 2. So this was part 1 of chapter 10. Next I will be releasing part 2 of chapter 10. Continuation. Don't worry.